In July 2018, families from the suburb of Ennerdale, situated some 30 kilometers south of Johannesburg, began moving onto adjacent vacant land known as Extension 4. The land, owned by government and long earmarked for housing development, had been standing vacant for over 20 years. Tired of waiting on empty promises, unemployed and not able to pay rentals elsewhere, these were families living in dire, overcrowded situations. In the settlement they call Lakeview, for the first time in their lives, they each now have a place of their own they call home.
The reason why I came here is because I'm not working, so I cannot afford to rent. I was living in Extension 1 in Ennerdale until my grandmother passed away. So because it was a family house, it was becoming overcrowded because we have 4 children and all 4 of us have our own children. I have 2 children and obviously the father of my children who is in a wheelchair. So that's where I decided that I want something of my own. I want to build a home for my children.
The main issue is the poverty issue and no place really for sanitation and so on. But every Wednesday, since we started, through the grace of God, we have a feeding ministry here where we give food out to the community, especially to the children and the elders also. But mostly it's for the children.
I can say I'm happy living here because I have peace of mind. I'm very grateful for having this place because if it wasn't for this place, I have no idea where I would have been staying because as it is, I can't afford to pay rent. So yeah, it's a blessing to stay here, although the circumstances are a bit tough because there's no sanitation whatsoever. We have water and electricity, but it's illegal. As you can see, we are using yogas, so it's not safe. But what choices do we have?
Because there is nothing have been done for the people to the promises of the government and so on. They have promised but never kept their promises to the people. So by the government not keeping their promises, they had, as I see, that they had no choice other but to come here and to settle down and make a place for themselves because it's hard and it's tough for them.
For South Africa's landless majority, it has been a long, hard road, beginning with colonial conquest and culminating in ultimate dispossession with the implementation of the grand apartheid Bantustan design. Over 3 million black South Africans were uprooted and dumped in barren wastelands demarcated as Bantustans in the forced population removals that took place before the apartheid regime was finally toppled and brought down. Desmond Tutu, General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches, was unwavering in his commitment to opposing forced relocations.
Well, I've visited quite a few of these so-called resettlement camps, which is a nice name for dumping grounds for human beings who are uprooted from their former homes. This particular visit to a resettlement camp outside Queenstown called Zweledinga, I met a little girl who just came out of a shed in which she lived with a widowed mother and a sister. And I asked her, well, what do you do for food? And she said, we borrow food. And I said, what happens if you can't borrow food? And she said, we drink water to fill our stomachs.
If they want to know the direction in which I'm taking the South African Council of Churches, the direction is we are focusing on that homelands policy and the resettlement and uprooting of our people. That is where the SACC is going to be spending its resources to ensure that that policy is destroyed.
25 years into democracy, the struggle for human dignity and security continues. Their shacks barely built, within the first week the community of Lakeview was invaded by the local Metropolitan Police.
after they demolished our 93 shacks, because we were 93 at the time. It was a struggle because we didn't know where we're gonna sleep. As for that night where our shacks were removed and we have children, it was extremely horrible.
A court hearing followed. In an attempt to subvert any hope that the community might have of making representation, the metropolitan officials served notice late Friday afternoon of the hearing scheduled that evening in the High Court in Rissik Street, central Johannesburg.
They tried to sabotage us. They know that we are not working. We don't have cars. How are we going to get to Rissik, to the High Court?
Against all odds, the community pulled together and managed to get 10 members to the hearing in Rissik Street by 5 p.m.
When we got at the court, we found Metro already there. So when I got on the stand, the judge would ask me, am I working? I told her I am not working. So she asked, why am I here? I told her I'm staying here because the father of my children is stabbed. I'm not working. I have nowhere to go. So when I heard about the land grabbing, that's why I ended up here. So she asked everyone the same thing. And then we also told her that we were served now only. Metro knew already, I think 2 days before they served us, about the court case, but they never came. They came the exact date and they were hoping that we won't attend so that they could win the case. But then her ruling was that we remain on the land. If Metro doesn't want us here, then they should give us an alternative accommodation.
I also was in court where the judge granted permission unto the people to live on this land. And God did grant them favor at court where the judge gave them permission to stay. And we thank God because God has heard, that was our prayer. And then God heard our prayer and God answered.
But the struggle for Lakeview was not yet over. Their shacks barely rebuilt, the next week residents were attacked in the middle of the night by vigilantes from the nearby community of Lawley.
People were hurt because Lawley was attacking us in the middle of the night. So you'll hear the whistle is blowing about 2 a.m. or even 1 a.m. Who you gonna call? Where you gonna run to? You have to protect your children in such a way that some lady was burned while she was inside the shack. And as we are speaking, she's in and out of hospital because she's traumatized because of that experience.
I brought a mattress, I brought with blankets, I brought with food and even money to assist her to show that she can recover again. And then after that, some things it was also gathered for, and by now she's staying at her own place.
I think our life is better now. The fighting has stopped. We still don't have house numbers, and the street name is my main concern because, as I'm saying, the father of my children is in a wheelchair. God forbid, what if something happens to him in the middle of the night? I have to call the ambulance. Where do I say, how do they find my shack? Because all the shacks look the same. The place needs to be recognized. Even when we're looking for work, they want a proof of residence. How do we give him a proof of residence? There is no street name, there is no numbers. That is a problem. We are going through a lot of things, and yes, some people, they are so insensitive and don't care because they are saying, we choosing to live this life because who said we should steal the land? But they're not understanding our circumstances. Nobody wants to steal the land. Nobody wishes to stay in such a place with such circumstances, but unfortunately, it's the situation that you are placed in that pushes you to this place.
Announcing the appointment of a panel of experts to advise government on land reform going forward, President Cyril Ramaphosa declared, "The panel is mandated to review, research and suggest models for government to implement a fair and equitable land reform process that redresses the injustices of the past, increases agricultural output, promotes economic growth and protects food security."